Thank you guys all for being so patient with this.
I'm Gabby,
I'm Nora.
and we'll be presenting on
Website design and maintenance. Okay, so we'll talk about an overview of our presentation. We've split it into two parts. The first part is going to be talking about design. That's mainly going to be covering the aesthetics that go with designing a website and the rules you should follow, and then user experiences that you want to keep in mind while you're designing and building your website. Second part, we'll be going over maintenance. And in maintenance, you're going to be upkeeping your website, trying to clean it up a little bit, keeping the information up to date, and you're also going to learn a little bit about user interaction.
Okay, so part one, basics of website design. If people have one click on your website, what do you want that one click to be? So if you think about how long you've stayed on pages that don't interest you, it's typically not that long. In fact, on average, people spend less than 1 minute on pages that they find boring. And this is why your home page is so crucial, because this is what people see. This is the first thing people see on your website. And that's what they think of your team. And if it's boring or cluttered or messy, unorganized, they're not going to go very much further into your page. So clarity is very important. It's crucial that you stay concise and clear in your paragraphs. If your writing is very muddled and kind of busy, people are gonna get lost. People are gonna get tired. They won't stay on there very long. And another thing is when they scan the page really quickly, they should want to like it. They shouldn't get tired from it. The biggest thing with websites is that people get bored and tired, and that's why they don't stay very long. You want to minimize your paragraphs and your options so that they don't get overwhelmed. Okay, TLDR, too long, didn't read. More common than you think. And the viewer experience and aesthetic is 100% just as important as anything and everything else.
Okay, so on our website, we have a couple laws of simplicity that we follow. They help us minimize the pages so that the information on there doesn't become overwhelming or we don't have too much on one page. So the first of the 5 laws is going to be to reduce. So when you're reducing, you want to get rid of extra pages that you find unnecessary on your website, or try and combine 2 pages if they're really similar and they're just taking up too much space on your website. You also want to reduce the amount of text on your website too. Text can become very tiresome on a website, and people are going to be less likely to read large blocks of text than they are to read smaller blocks of text filled in with graphical elements and photos. So reduction is really important to keeping a clean website. Second, it's going to be to organize. So once you have all of that information on your page and you believe this is all necessary, you need to organize that information into categories or whatever other organization system you would prefer. On our page, we have little folders that pop down, and we have different categories like outreach or Davis Youth Robotics or resources. And then going from there, people can find the pages that they are looking for. So organization is really important, especially as your website begins to expand. The more pages you add on, the more organized you're going to want to be, just because organization can make a website with a lot of information seem a lot less overwhelming to the viewers. Third is time. Like Nora mentioned earlier, anyone who is uninterested, bored, overwhelmed on a website is not going to spend a long time on there. They're going to try to find another way to get their information, or they're just not going to enjoy your experience. So part of that is time. We live in a digital age where you want to be able to get your answers quickly so you can move on to the next step. So when you're designing a website, you want to minimize the amount of steps your viewers have to take to get to their end point. You want to minimize any extra seconds, any extra minutes, any extra time they would have to use just trying to navigate your website. And that ties back into reduction and organization, because that's how you're going to be able to save your viewers time. Fourth is context. So with context, you want to remember who your website is geared towards. If your website is meant more for sponsors versus other kids from other teams versus parents, you're going to have different types of writing. So this is important to keep in mind on individual pages and on the website as the whole. The style of writing is going to change, and you need to keep that in mind. So if you have a very technical page and that's just geared towards people that already have technical experience, that's great. You don't need to break down those terms. But if you have a general page and maybe people that don't have a lot of experience in robotics, or your sponsors are going to look there, you may want to break down the terms on there so that they can understand what's going on your website. You don't want to have a ton of technical terms on there and then for someone to have to look up what you're saying every 5 seconds. So context is really important. And then lastly is opportunities. So websites are constantly evolving, they're constantly changing, and sometimes you can't make a page as simple as you would like, or someone else comes along and they see a completely different idea for the layout of a page that makes it so much more clean cut and so much more simplistic. So opportunities, it's always important to keep in mind what you can improve in the future based off of your past failures. And opportunities will come really in handy when you're trying to apply concepts that you already learned to the design and formatting of a new page.
So what I mentioned in my earlier slide was your experience. So we're going to get a little more in depth on that. One of the most dreaded occurrences in website design is click and scroll fatigue. Ooh. Click and scroll fatigue. So you don't want your viewers to have to click more than 3 times to get to where they want to go to. That's tiresome. And you don't want them to have to scroll so much just to get to the piece of information they want to go to. You know, an example of this is on our very own website on the fall workshops page. Coincidentally enough, we have like a bunch of videos listed, like just all of the past 3 years, 4 years, and you can see like on the right side that it's going to take a long time to scroll because your scroll bar is this tiny compared to all the space that it has to scroll. So like if you want to quickly check if you could possibly have click and scroll fatigue on your very own website, you should see how long it takes to scroll. Because people are less likely to visit that page more often, people are less likely to actually find the stuff they want to. People are lazy. Another thing is eye draw and placement. This is just as important as everything else. So naturally, the human eye is drawn to the top left corner of the website page, especially when there's a red circle and red arrows pointing to it. This happens for us because in English, we read from the top left corner to the right. So our eye looks to the top left corner to start reading. So obviously you're going to want to put your most important information there because that's what people are going to see first. So in your header, your homepage, in your header, all your pages, you're going to want to put your team name, your logo, your team number in the top left corner. This goes hand in hand with the next slide, which is confronting information blocks. How many of you are more likely to read this than this? Raise your hand if you'd rather read number 2. Raise your hand if you'd rather read number 1. No one raised their hand for number 1. This is because it looks like there's so much written on that page. And that's because the text blocks span the entire width of the page. But the text blocks here look shorter because they only span half of the width of the page, which is true. They are shorter because in distance, your eye only has to move half of the distance of the page, so your eye doesn't get tired. This is like another kind of scroll fatigue, but like your eye is scrolling across the page. So a way that you can fix this is by splitting your page vertically, because taller, narrower text blocks are a little less straining to the eye because of how long they are, like how wide they are. And so people are more likely to read your information. It also creates style diversity, which is actually appealing to the eye.
Okay, so we want to talk about image choice too. Image choice is really important on your website, as you guys saw on the last slide. Number 2 was a lot more convincing to read. That was the way to go because the text was a lot shorter, it was minimalized, but also because there were a lot more images on the last page. So images on your website are always going to be vital. You do not want only a website with only text blocks on it because no one is going to want to read that much. Their eyes are going to get tired, they're going to get fatigued. So your image choice tells your viewers what your words cannot. So image is important in the way that it will enrich your website with extra details that you want to include, but you can't include in blocks of text because it would take up too much room or it's not quite necessary. So we have a checklist that we go down before we place an image on the website, and it's got these 3 things: enforce, inform, and connect. So enforcing is enforcing some type of consistent message. Consistency on your website and across all types of branding is really important, so you can consistently come across as that same team each time, and people can easily recognize you. So enforcing some type of brand or some type of idea. In this image, this is from our Davis Youth Robotics summer camps, and you guys can tell because all the shirts have that Davis Youth Robotics branding right there in the image. So this can be really useful. Second is to inform. So you want your images to be telling some type of story that adds onto the page. You don't want your images just to be taking up blank space when you could be filling some other element there. So when you're using images, you want to make sure it's adding onto the web page in some manner. Most of the time, that's through a story. So in this image, it's describing to viewers what is happening during the Davis Youth Robotics camps. Lastly is to connect. So to leave a truly impactful image on the website so that your viewers can actually remember, because a lot of people are visual learners, make a lot of visual connections. That's going to be through emotional connections. In this image right here, we have a lot of kids, and they're getting to experiment with STEM. They're getting to learn in a hands-on environment with robots, and you can see they're actually really passionate about it. So it's always great to have some type of emotion or something that your viewers can connect to. This can be a really common mistake, is that you only upload photos of your robot onto your website. You don't want to do that. You want to include pictures of people on the website too. It's really important that you have that on there so that people can see that it's not just your robot, it's the people behind the robot, it's the students that are pushing it and making it happen.
It's a lot harder to establish an emotional connection with a robot.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay.
So let's talk about your software options. You're going to want to look for price, you're going to want to look for the abilities and the reliability. So price, if there is a software that has a million different things, but it's so expensive, do you really need to pay for it? Your budget has only so much money. Why spend so much money on a software that you're not even going to use all of the elements within it? You can put that money elsewhere. Next is abilities. Can it do everything you need it to do? If it can't, then why would you use it? Don't use it. Use a different one. And is it reliable? Does it glitch a lot? Is it, does it go down often? How well is it rated? If it has more problems than, good things, if there's more cons than pros, odds are you shouldn't use it. Use something that works for you. That's the most important thing. And another thing is user friendliness. So earlier we talked about user experience. And this is another type of user experience in that the user is, designing the website, the user of the software. So user friendliness, how easy is it to use? Can anyone learn how to use it? If your team member graduates and there's no one else who had worked on the website, can a new member learn easily? Is it glitchy, super slow when you're editing a page? And for this, we actually found that Weebly worked pretty well for us. It has tutorials and stuff, and it's very well rated. It has all of those check marks down. It's pretty good.
Okay, so now we're going to be going over part 2, which is the basics of website maintenance. A general rule to follow on website maintenance is that your website will never be finished. You're always going to want to update pages with more information. You're always going to want to clean up the design aspect of it in some way, and that comes through website maintenance. You can look at the formatting of pages throughout years. So if you look at a page from 1995, and then you look at a page from 2000, and then 2010, and then here in 2019, you are going to see a lot of differences in the formatting of the website and what people found aesthetically pleasing back then versus what people hold as aesthetic values now. So it's really important to continue maintenance so that you're not having to do these really large updates at once where you're completely changing the formatting from a 2000 website to a 2019 website. Okay, so responsibilities. So there's a lot that goes into a website, and it's a lot of constant updating, and it can become very overwhelming, especially if there's only one person working on your website, because you can have a lot of information that needs to go up there, and sometimes information can get lost or you can forget to do a certain update, but you want to try to get as much of those updates done as you can. So we have different ways to organize the information that we need and the updates that we need to complete. So we have an ongoing list that any team member can add on to. So if anyone is scrolling on our website and they catch some type of mistake on there, maybe they catch incorrect grammar or a misspelled word or a dead link, then they can Slack us, or they can go onto that list, which is shared through Google Drive, and they can update the list, so then we can look at it and figure out what we need to complete. Typically on the list, we have the link to the page, so we can figure out what went wrong on there and then exactly what information was incorrect. Then we have a schedule that we also keep, which we'll talk about later. Perspective and team image are both really important. So your perspective, you are going to be looking at your website a lot, and you're going to be looking at it how other people would see it, just through a general web browser, and you're also going to be seeing it through the software that you're using. So just like English or any type of writing, you're going to get tired of seeing the same thing, and then your eyes are going to automatically skip over any mistakes that you might catch. So if you've been staring at the website for a long time, you're not going to notice when two graphic elements aren't even, or you're going to miss the border on a photo that shouldn't be there. So it always helps to have a fresh pair of eyes there that can look through pages, because they're going to pick up any mistakes that you missed very quickly. So this is really important on website design, especially with large scale maintenance or anything like that, because your eyes are going to get very tired. Lastly is team image. So when you're updating, you want to be updating constantly, and you want to be having shorter updates so you're not having these very big formatting changes. Website is a portal into how your team operates. It's a portal into what your team does. So your website is really important to keep up, and you want to have a reliable website that has a good reputation, and that means constantly updating it. Okay, so as I mentioned before, visitor experience. A lot of the time you're going to be viewing your own website through the whatever type of software you use to update it. Having other people look on it, anything like that, very helpful. Or even yourself, just going onto the website from a normal point of view, clicking on random pages, trying to walk through viewer experience is going to be extremely important in your website, because that's what's going to dictate the changes that you make. Accuracy and attention, like I said before, you want to have good grammar, you want to have good spelling on your website. It makes your website seem a lot more reliable and a lot more respectable. These mistakes are often easily overlooked or anything like that, just because a lot of website software doesn't have automatically placed in spelling corrections or anything like that. It would have to be manual, where you catch it yourself. And then lastly, we have boosting site traffic. So you want to be continuously improving so you can boost your own site traffic. A lot of search engines like Google will use algorithms to see which websites they should be placing at the top of their own pages. And a large factor that goes into those algorithms is how often that website is updated and when the last time it was updated was. So this doesn't seem very important if you have a robotics website where people will typically be very specific in looking up what they need, but sometimes people won't necessarily be able to remember your exact team number, or they won't be able to remember your exact team name or anything like that. They might be able to remember something associated with their team. So maybe they could look up something like Citrus Robotics or anything like that. And the more frequently you update your website, the more likely it's going to be that it's going to pop up on that page so people can find you. Boosting site traffic is just also good to keep in mind in general for future websites that you're going to be designing or anything like that, especially in a competitive field. And then continuously improving. Again, your website's never finished. It's always going to be changing, and you're always going to want to improve it somehow to keep up with the digital era. It moves really quickly.
Now we're going to talk about user interactions. So opinions, you're going to want to hear people's opinions about how your website looks visually, aesthetically. Does it look good? Does this look wrong? This looks weird. This image is formatted weirdly. It's put next to this text block in a weird way, So people are going to send you opinions about what they think the website looks like, and that's very important because your eyes sort of adapt to how it's supposed to look like, and it's kind of nice to get a fresh perspective. And then you get questions. So you get questions about your website, like, I couldn't find this page. This is, how do I get here? Do you have this information on your website? So we have like a search bar. People can find information. If they can't find it, they can ask us, email us about any concerns about the website. And then we have feedback. So that's like technical stuff about the website, like, hey, something about this paragraph is out of date, something about what you wrote is inaccurate, here's how you should update it, and we'll change it. We'll be open-minded, we'll address the issue. And then we have statistics. We have what would you say it's called in Weebly? We have the demographics. So like how many people a day visit your page, and it's about site traffic.
Yeah.
Site traffic. So how many people visit your page a day, a month, a year, within a certain time? Some softwares have this built into it. You might actually want that in your search for software, and Weebly has that. And it's kind of good to see at what points of the year you should focus on making more updates, so that, because that more people are going to be visiting your website, and so you should stay up to date.
Okay, so this is what I mentioned earlier, is having a schedule with your website updates is really helpful to making sure they get done by their deadlines. So you're going to have a couple of different types of updates you're going to need to complete on your website, and it's different types of maintenance. So you're going to have routine checkups that you're going to complete. That's going to be typically pretty small maintenance that you're going to do. It's going to be something like updating a year, maybe updating a page with the latest information, like the latest image of your robot or your latest leadership team, anything like that. Those are both annual updates for us. You're also going to have an ongoing list of updates. So in order to balance this all, we create a schedule where we can keep an eye on the upcoming updates, just because not everything's going to need to update at the same time. You're going to have some updates that need to happen biannually, some annually, some once a month, like if you're updating a newsletter. Those you're all going to want to put on a schedule just so you don't forget them, and just so you don't need to keep track of all of them, because it can become really overwhelming. Second, you're going to have that list of updates that I mentioned earlier. This is irregular updates. It's typically a lot of minor maintenance that you're doing, like fixing dead links or anything like that. Occasionally, it can include a major update. So major updates are typically redesigns of your pages. These can take a couple of hours to complete. It truly depends on how much you're trying to reformat. So the reason the schedule and that list is so important is because you are going to have those major updates that you're going to have to do, and they're going to take a really long time to complete. So keeping track of everything else so you're prepared for when you have time to do those major updates is really important. Setting deadlines for all of that, also important, especially if you have more than one person working on your website, just so you can communicate on what's going to happen with certain pages, on what needs to get done, on stuff like that, and you guys can check in with each other's progress. So deadlines are great on a website. Lastly, what's really important on a website is your style guide. So style guide works the same way as branding standards would. It's going to create a more consistent and more reliable website that your viewers are going to enjoy aesthetically, and typically they'll respect it a lot more. Your style guide for the website, it's typically going to be a pretty small graphic that you're going to keep with you. It's going to have the rules of the website on it. So if a random person were to log in and they were to try to complete website updates, they would be able to follow your style guide to keep up with your team branding. So typically your style guide will include your team colors or whatever colors you want on the website. Ours is our lime green. We have white, black, and gray. And those are going to be the 4 colors on our style guide. You're also going to want the fonts and the sizes of those fonts and any additional rules that you might have on there. For us, we do have specific fonts we use. We have specific sizes for each placing of text. So if it's a body text, it's going to be smaller versus a subheader and then an actual header. Those all have different size fonts that we include in our style guide in case anyone's updating a page. And we also have different specific rules on there, like maybe under each header you want a spacer just because it's more aesthetically pleasing that way. Style guides just help so you don't forget any branding standards on the website, and it makes your website really consistent. Okay. Great. Thank you guys so much for coming in and listening, and thank you guys for being so patient. We want to know if you guys have any questions or if you guys have any feedback.
Please ask questions. We really want to answer them.
Yeah.
So you guys were talking a lot about like how keeping your text short and concise. Do you have like approximately like how much a user would read?
Oh, like a word count kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of like how many paragraphs or how much would they
I
have
think
to
it's
read?
less about like the amount like words to read, like a word count, but more of like how much it looks like it is.
Yeah.
Because if you saw those like slide picture 1 and 2, picture 1, if you just divided the page vertically, it would look like picture 2, but it would just be the same amount of text. It's the same amount of text, but you're just making it look shorter.
They prefer to read it if it looks shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
No one wants to read a lot.
Yeah, no one wants to read a lot. And I guess it also depends on the subject matter. So if you're going into a really technical topic, it's okay to have longer writing. If you're talking about outreach or anything else, you're going to want to keep it pretty short.
It
pretty
also allows
concise.
more space for photos.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
cool.
The reader would rather read along or would rather read photos and videos with text box on the side rather than just a long list of information.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Because they don't have to go this entire width, like back and forth and back and forth. They only have to go this much.
Yeah. And a lot of people make visual connections, so it's really helpful to have colorful elements on here, like this subheader that helps break it up, or the images on there too. It just makes your website more visually enticing for them.
It might also make that paragraph seem more interesting for them to read.
I don't know if you would be able to answer this, but why did you as Team 1678 decide to choose Weebly over any other website company?
I think we chose Weebly because Weebly was a free application that we could use, and it seemed fairly reliable. At the time, we weren't around when it was chosen. We had a senior member that graduated, and I believe he was the original website designer, so he was the one that chose Weebly. But I can tell you we stick with it because Weebly has a lot of options for how we want to design our website. It's not just us filling in information. We have our options with formatting, and Weebly uses a block system. So you drag blocks of text or a block of whatever you want, and then you can place it wherever you want on that website. That's why we stick with Weebly, and Weebly also has a lot of options on there. So we can use files, we can upload documents, we can also upload YouTube videos on there, we can upload images and all of this other stuff. So that's why we stick with Weebly. I've also heard, though, that Wix is a great website application. So if you want to put more research into that.
It's not completely free though. There's like elements you have to pay for to get certain things like accordions. That's how we're gonna fix our fall workshop page. So
Yeah.
be sure to check that out soon. Yeah, we're gonna have the year and then like, media and business fall workshops under like one expandable folder, and then technical skills under one expandable folder, and that cut the page in half. But that wasn't free. That application costed like $10 or so.
Yeah.
Also, there's like certain things that come with free websites, like they have their name in the beginning, like Weebly dot blah blah blah, which you have to pay money for to get rid of.
In the back.
You were talking about your color design.
So officially no, but yes.
Yeah.
Logically, you don't want to use too many colors.
Yeah. I'd say a good limit on that is probably going to be 4 or 5.
I'd say 5.
5. Yeah.
I
So
mean, very, very contrasting colors, 5. But if it's like gray, a different shade of gray, black, white, you can have more.
exactly. On your style guide, you're typically going to want something like the background color of your website, which is white. That's going to be a big factor. You're
Your
going to want
accent colors.
your accent color. Our
Accent
accent color
colors.
is always going to be lime green. And then typically you're going to want 1 or 2 other colors on there that are a little bit more laid back, that don't instantly catch your eye.
Don't get like too spicy with it though, because you don't want to like freak people out. Because if you use like green text for your paragraphs, that's a bit much. But if you use, just make sense. Just have
Yeah.
it make sense.
Yeah.
What elements are really common in like the best organized
Text box.
What?
Text box.
like the best like kind of organized websites that you've seen. Like,
Okay.
Ooh, like space,
like-
efficient kind of.
just like if there even if there's a lot of information, it's really easy for the user to like go
Yeah.
through it.
Accordions.
Okay. So
Very passionate about those recently.
accordions are one way to organize your website. They essentially work like drop-down folders, and you can have more drop-down folders within that. So
Like
when
a
you have a
FAQ.
page that's
Okay.
really overwhelming, like our fall workshops page, accordions are great. Uh-oh. We made it so long. Another way is you want graphic images
Why
that
don't I
are
show you
going
guys?
to break it up. No.
The citrus circuit's like
Oh.
scroll fatigue. thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So other things are going to be graphic elements and accent colors. So anything like a header that you can put on there, that will break up the text because it's bright, it's colorful, it's big, so it's different. And then photos, videos, and then 2 other elements we use.
Those are videos. They're not loading in.
Yeah.
Right
2 other elements we use are called spacers and dividers. So spacers and dividers are really important in your website. They're very simplistic, so they really don't create too much complexity on your website, but they're great for breaking up blocks of text when you don't have images, just because it makes it seem a little bit more spread out. And then dividers are great for organizing that information on a single page into like subcategories. So I think we can show you some
The
examples.
time it took for you to say that, I scrolled to the bottom of the page.
That's how long it took to scroll to the bottom of the
Yeah.
page. So that's a problem. People are not going to want to go to see the 2015 fall workshops if it's all the way down there. So the accordions, we have fall workshops listed there for that year. And then we have business and media fall workshops and then technical skill fall workshops. You click on it and then it drops down with all the fall workshops like names listed underneath it, and then you can click on the name to access the video and PDF and see all the information. And it's under 3 clicks, so no click fatigue.
Yeah, I would say one other thing on your website you could use would be buttons or anything like that. Maybe you have a page that's really complex and there's a lot on it. In that case, we would advise trying to split it into multiple pages, seeing where you can break off that text from the general information when you're getting into more specifics. Add a button onto that page, and viewers can go to the bottom, or wherever you wish to place your button. They can go to that, and then they can go where there's a lot more information on that. So I think that's what we found really helpful.
I'm trying to find that page with the mentors and stuff.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, go to About, and then Mentors is right there.
No, like with the links to the mentors and then join the sub team.
That's a hidden page.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's also like the option in website things to like if you have a page in the works and you don't want people to see it, you can just hide it. That's really cool in Weebly. So you can work on it in secret, and then when you're ready to publish it for everyone to see in all its glory, you can make it public.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
So, as far as website like content goes, do you guys put like everything that you guys do on your website? Do you have any idea like what content you put on the website and how it contributes to it?
Yes. So we do put a lot of information on our website. We have a fairly large website now. I believe we have somewhere around 85 to 90 pages, including the hidden ones right now. On our website, we try to break it up into categories, and then we'll go from there. So you'll have anything about resources on there. So anything you want other teams to see, you're going to want to put on your website because that's going to be their best way to get that information. Anything with outreach can become a little bit trickier. If it's a continuous outreach program, then it is helpful to have on your website. Or if it's an outreach program that is involved with a lot of volunteers or something where the community can get involved, you're going to want to put it on your website. So anything that is going to be community-based or community-oriented, put that on there. Other than resources and outreach, we have a lot of basic information on there. So it's anything from our sponsors, which we offer sponsor benefits to and they get recognized on our website, to basic technical information, like our robots pages, where you're going to see the basics and then of how each robot is designed, and you can see the CAD files and the electrical information on there and all of that. So it is hard to tell. I would speak with maybe the mentors on your team or anyone else involved with your team. Again, this is where viewer experience comes back in. Getting their feedback on what they think isn't necessary on your website can be really helpful. But I would say anything that's community-oriented, community-based, and then basic information on your team. That's always really important, is to have the basic, where are you based? What do you do? What are some examples of what you do? What's your impact? All of that you want to include on your website.
Yes.
We have a question from the chat here from Quinn Foster, and they ask, how do you help encourage team members who might normally obsess with the robot work on articles and other content for the website?
Great. Okay.
You can take this one.
In our experience, website's really fun for us. We love website, and we can get that same type of rush or that same type of achievement when we create when we produce some type of page that we finished. So it can become challenging when people aren't interested in the website or articles like that. But if you have them sit down and they do one major update where they can directly see the improvement that they've made and what they've contributed to the website and see stuff like that, it's always amazing how quickly people get involved in that. It's really about how they can see the impact they're making. It goes the same for articles or anything like that. Just seeing that article out there, seeing that article being posted on social media,
It's public.
Yeah.
People see your accomplishment.
Just being able to see their impact, I think, is really big.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
When you guys were like designing your website, did you use like specific references? Like, were you did you like go on other teams' websites and see like what they did and
Yes.
kind of get ideas from there? Or
I started website, I think, a little bit earlier than her.
You started like 3 months before
Yeah,
me.
a little bit. I remember when I was redesigning the sponsors page on our website, it went through a big update. I sat down the first time and it took me 4 hours to get the basic redesign done. And then I went back for another 2 or 3 hours before it was finished. I went on a lot of professional websites. So I went on team websites because that's also very important. Look around for locals teams or anyone who you think might have a great website. I can't give you any recommendations off the top of my head for that. And then other than that, look at how businesses organize that type of information. That's always great when you cannot find information in the FRC community for the website. go to a well-established website, go to somewhere like Google, go to somewhere where it's a well-known company, because they are going to have a dedicated webmaster that's going to be working on these improvements. So that's how I came up with some of the graphical formatting for the sponsors page, was through looking at corporations and businesses and seeing what they did to make it aesthetically pleasing.
Oh, I remember that. We looked at other teams' pages and
Yeah.
stuff. I spend a heck of a lot of time on the internet, so subconsciously, yeah, I was drawing stuff from other pages, but I wasn't looking at like direct references.
Any other questions?
Please ask more questions.
Yeah, we love
Please
questions.
ask more questions. Just make one up. Just ask us a question.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys all so much for coming. Thank you for being so patient in the beginning, and we hope you guys could take something from this presentation to apply to your own website.
And give us feedback.
Yes, give us feedback.
You can find us on the new and improved fall workshops page.
Okay, thank you.
This is where you clap. This is where you clap. Thank you.